I'm going through an incredibly tough divorce right now, and it's made even more difficult by the fact that my ex-wife, Sandra, is demanding child support for our son, Jay. The twist in the story is that I recently found out Sandra had been cheating on me throughout our 5-year marriage with multiple men. Despite the betrayal, I had assumed Jay was my biological child and even signed his birth certificate. However, a paternity test revealed the truth. Jay isn't my son. Now, due to my name being on the birth certificate and having raised him as my own for a year, I'm facing the prospect of paying Sandra $11,000 in child support. What adds insult to injury is that Sandra is fully aware of the unfairness of the situation, but openly gloats about getting away with it to her friends. Frustratingly, I discovered through home security cameras that she called over different men, sometimes with Jay at home, further fueling my decision to initiate the divorce. My lawyer has informed me that I'm in a difficult spot legally, and contesting the child support ruling seems nearly impossible unless the biological father comes forward to prove Sandra's deception. The emotional toll of realizing the child I bonded with for a year isn't mine is already agonizing. I want to maintain a bond with Jay, but I absolutely do not want to pay a cent to Sandra. During the court proceedings, Sandra's behavior seemed malicious, and even her friend Julia, who reached out to me, cut ties with Sandra due to her attitude towards child support. It's a crazy and frustrating situation, and I'm struggling to navigate it while trying to protect my rights and maintain a connection with Jay. I confronted Sandra about the text messages Julia shared with me, where Sandra openly discussed using the child support money for shopping and trips, even having a friend who could help her disguise these expenses as necessary for Jay. Julia called her out in their group chat, but everyone seemed to side with Sandra, believing she was doing what was best for Jay and blaming me for the strained relationship. After reading those messages, I was furious, and I decided to fight the court order for child support. I asked Julia to be a character witness for me, and she agreed to talk about Sandra's statements. I hope this will at least help me reduce the exorbitant amount Sandra is trying to extract from me. Now, I'm preparing to appeal for a reevaluation of the divorce decree, but I'm concerned about the potential fallout. Sandra's erratic behavior makes me worry about Jay's well-being. While I may win and reduce child support, I'm not sure if my ex can provide for the child. I acknowledge that I may not have it in me to take custody of Jay and raise him as my own, but the proposed child support amount is outrageous. Sandra crafted it by emphasizing Jay's expected standards of living, and it would genuinely impact me if I let things continue as they are. I'm torn and second-guessing my decision to move forward with the case. In an update, I've decided to proceed with the case after considering the advice I received. I also contemplated shared visitation, but since the affair didn't directly affect Jay, it's unlikely to change the custody situation. However, I believe Julia's testimony will influence how child support payments are handled and ensure proper oversight of my ex. I don't want any money going into her pocket unjustly. The appeal is still ongoing, but a new and potentially significant development has emerged. Julia reached out to me with news that another friend of Sandra's, who recently had a falling out with her, might have information that could help me sue for paternity fraud. According to Julia, this friend knows the likely father of Jay. Sandra apparently confessed to her during pregnancy that she knew who the father was. This mysterious person, whom I don't know yet, has sent contact information for this guy, David, to Julia. David is someone Sandra spoke to during her pregnancy, and he's now urging me to reach out to him. This could be a game changer for me. If David is sympathetic to my situation or has his own issues with Sandra, I might have a strong case for paternity fraud. I took the step to text David, briefly explaining the situation and expressing that I don't hold any ill will towards him. Surprisingly, he had no idea that Jay could be his child, and this revelation shocked him. He's eager to meet up, not just for our sake, but to find out more about his potential son. This turn of events could be either the best or worst thing for me. If David is supportive, it could strengthen my case against Sandra. On the other hand, if things go south, it might complicate the situation further. Regardless, I'm willing to face this uncertainty to get the truth about Jay's paternity and potentially bring Sandra to justice for her actions. The situation is complex, but I'm hopeful that meeting David will shed light on the truth and help navigate the legal proceedings more effectively. Meeting David has brought a shocking revelation about Sandra's deceitful actions. Talking to David, I learned Sandra seduced him for a one-night stand while still married to me. He only discovered her marital status later through the anonymous friend who put the pieces together. David was unaware of Sandra's pregnancy and lost contact with her until Jay was born. Sandra assured him that Jay wasn't his, lied about being on the pill during their encounter, and openly deceived both of us. After discussing timelines and conducting a paternity test, it became evident that Jay is David's child. Fueled by anger and a sense of responsibility, David and I have decided to sue Sandra for paternity fraud. In an update, there have been significant victories. I won't be paying child support. In fact, Sandra is now required to compensate me for emotional turmoil and damages. Julia's testimony and evidence indicating Sandra's knowledge of the real father played a crucial role in our favor. Sandra is willing to relinquish custody of Jay, and David, along with his current partner, wants to raise the child. Sandra's lack of connection with her son leaves me disgusted, but sadly not surprised. Although I'll visit Jay as his uncle, I worry about the emotional impact on him as he grows up. It will require maturity and effort to ensure a healthy relationship. On a positive note, getting to know David reveals he's a stand-up person, remorseful about his role in the affair despite Sandra's lies. In an unexpected turn, I've started seeing Julia. While not in a committed relationship yet, she's an amazing person who immediately took issue with Sandra's adultery. This stark difference from my ex reinforces my decision to move forward and highlights the potential for healthier relationships in the future. Taking things slow with Julia has been a comforting journey, and being in a more secure relationship feels like a breath of fresh air. It's reassuring to have someone understanding and supportive during these challenging times. On the flip side, learning that Sandra's friends are now distancing themselves from her, albeit to save face after the paternity fraud revelation, is quite telling. While Julia may not be on good terms with most of that circle, the focus remains on Jay finally having parents who genuinely care for him. The contrast in fortunes is stark. The fact that Sandra's friends are leaving her shows the consequences of her actions. It's a relief to have moved away from the mess I was in just a little while back. The emotional roller coaster has been tough, but finding a way out and witnessing positive changes in my life is truly uplifting. About 2 months after tying the knot with my wife Miranda, I thought I had it all. A great job, a beautiful wife, and a friend who had been with me through thick and thin, Mark. That feeling of contentment, where you believe nothing can shatter your peace, that was me, naive as it sounds. One fateful day, I got off work early. The traffic was surprisingly light, and I was eager to spend quality time with Miranda. However, as I turned into our quiet cul-de-sac, I noticed Mark's black Dodge parked in front of our house. Panic set in as I quickly put 2 and 2 together. Instead of confronting them immediately, I decided to call Miranda. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. My gut told me something was terribly wrong, but I needed confirmation. I called Mark, and without a hint of guilt, he casually mentioned heading to the clubhouse for some golf. The call ended, and my mind raced, veins pulsating before I found myself in a shopping center parking lot miles away from home, trying to process the betrayal. Taking action, I started with the basics, protecting my financial assets. A strange mix of betrayal and resolve consumed me as I moved money from our joint account to a new one at a different bank. Numbness set in as the reality of my situation sank in. Next, my cell phone. In a move I never thought I'd make, I blocked Miranda's number. No room for excuses or explanations. The same treatment followed on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I changed my status to single, blocked her, and scrubbed away every picture of us together, pixel by pixel. Mark received the same treatment. Feeling the need to regroup and plan my next move, I requested a 2-week vacation from my boss, which he granted without hesitation. With newfound freedom, I booked a moving crew to collect my things from the house in 2 weeks. The pieces of my escape plan were falling into place. For the next few days, I found solace in a high-end hotel on the other side of town, maintaining a safe distance from Miranda and the life we had built together. Each day was a peculiar blend of apartment hunting, heartfelt conversations with my folks, and quiet moments of introspection. My parents became the unwavering rocks in the stormy sea of my life, offering comfort, advice, and unwavering support. They were my anchor, and I could feel resilience growing within me. Apartment hunting turned out to be less challenging than expected, and I moved in on the day my belongings arrived. My brother, a blessing, oversaw the moving process at the old apartment. Miranda was there, confused and desperate for answers, but my brother offered her none. He simply made it clear that if she didn't understand why he was there, she was even less bright than he thought. He left her standing there, tears streaming down her face. Returning to work after settling in brought a sense of normalcy, except for the messages left on my work voicemail from Miranda and the occasional bouquets of flowers with cards pleading for me to call her and explain. I gave the flowers to my buddy, who appreciated the gesture, and assured me his wife loved them. So it wasn't a complete waste. The flowers ceased once the divorce papers were served to her. After a couple of months, the day of our divorce hearing arrived. Seeing Miranda for the first time since that dreadful day was surreal. She looked shattered, red, puffy eyes, and her once vibrant spirit seemed dimmed. In the sterile courtroom, I barely spared her a glance, focusing on the judge and my lawyer. There was no anger or bitterness, just a quiet resolution to move on from this chapter of my life. Once the hearing concluded, officially dissolving our short-lived marriage, I walked out of the courthouse, ready to embrace my new life. However, Miranda wasn't done. She chased me down in the parking lot, her tear-streaked face a mask of desperation and remorse. She begged for an explanation, for closure, but I gave her none. I didn't speak a word, didn't show any sign of desire to engage with her. I got into my car and drove away, leaving her standing there, a broken figure in my rearview mirror. Some might see my actions as cruel, believing she deserved an explanation. But when trust is shattered and the person you love betrays you, explanations become meaningless. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of an apology. Closure was what she desperately sought, but I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, the consequences of her betrayal. It was painful, undoubtedly, but in a strange way, it was also liberating. Losing a wife and a friend revealed a strength within me that I never knew existed. I discovered the power of resilience, the value of family, and the importance of self-respect. Now, I'm living a new and better life. I have my own apartment, a job I love, and the unwavering support of my family. I've learned to rely on myself, to value my self-worth, and not let anyone else's actions define me. This unexpected journey of self-discovery, triggered by a cheating wife and a backstabbing friend, taught me valuable lessons. The moral of the story, you ask? Trust your gut, protect your assets, cut out toxicity, and stand your ground. Most importantly, never lose faith in yourself. No matter how tough things get, remember, there's always a way out, a fresh start waiting just around the corner. Be brave, take the first step. I handled the situation in a cold and stoic manner. What do you think? What would you have done differently, if anything? Share your thoughts in the comments section below.